Hi everybody! Today I decided to make a painting. God bless everyone. Service in church was great today. We talked about the upper room when the Holy Spirit came down and everyone was blessed with gifts of different languages, which got word out to the congregation. And I just want to take the time to say thank you for joining me. And today's theme will be fall rain out my window. As you can see, I have a 16 by 20 canvas. I put some tape down. Hopefully the tape will stay because I had to wet the canvas a little bit so the paint won't dry too soon. Since the air in my house is a little dry. Just to give me some leeway to work on. I have the 1/4 inch Scotch tape. You see how thin it is from my hand. It's about my pinky, pretty much pinky size. And I put it straight across, a little bit above halfway point. I cut the same tape right in half to make thinner strips, and I went from top to bottom to give some strips to the window. So let me know if you guys can hear me fine. Again, this is a 16 by 20 canvas. Love you guys and God bless, and thank you for joining me. So I'm thinking about fall colors and how it's been raining lately. And I said, you know what? It's beautiful how the fall leaves change colors. And I said, do I paint a gray and white still life? I don't know. We'll find out what happens. Like many of us artists and people that like to have fun, we just like our creativity to come out. And I am working with regular student canvas paint. I have all the colors here with me, just in case, whatever I'm in the mood for. I have black, blue, white, green, red, and yellow. And I mix a little bit of red and blue up here, in case I want to make purple. And I always keep a little extra yellow and a little extra white on the side, in case I need to mix. And of course, you know me, I like to recycle my egg cartons. They make great paint holders, and you can cover it so they won't dry. As for the paintbrushes, I have 3 today. 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and I think it's just 1/4 inch. But these are the paintbrushes that I'm using. Soft bristle. They hold the paint well. I always wet the paintbrush first so I can load up on the paint. And I will be doing side to side X markings on the canvas to mix the paints on. And whatever I put on the canvas, I'll let you know what paintbrushes I'm going to be using, if I need to change it or not, if I need to wash the paintbrush or not. Sometimes I just like to re-dip in paints and keep going. I will let you know we have to rinse the brush off or not. I definitely have my paper plate here in case I need to mix, my tissue paper in case I need to dry my brushes. And let's have fun with today's session. God bless everyone today. First of all, rejoice and be glad for the day God has made. That's my motto. I hope everyone is blessed today. Had such an amazing time yesterday. My little cousin's sweet 15, Haley. Just a shout out to her. Beautiful young lady that she's coming up to be. Shout out to my cousin Vanessa and Dedwin for bringing her up with good scruples and morals. I love my family. And Thanksgiving is around the corner. Can't wait. One of my favorite holidays. And let's get started. So, what am I in the mood for? Let's see. Should I do a gray and white background paint? I think I will start with painting the background white and then start mixing in colors to see what I kind of decide I want to do. Like all of us, we like to just let our creativity come out. So I am going to go with the 1 inch brush and I'm going to wet it. And I'm going to wring the excess out of water and press it onto my tissue. I'm going to load the brush up with white paint. And I'm just going to start with X's. And just load up on these little squares. And see what happens. This is regular white acrylic student paint. Again, I have my little water spray bottle in case the canvas gets a little too dry. I will be misting it. Being careful not to lift the tape. I don't want to get the paint underneath. I know it's hard to see because it is white. Start off with the first top 3 squares and then work my way down. Pressing down not to move the tape. I'm gonna try to move this a little bit so you can kind of see the whole canvas. Hopefully my dog doesn't bark if somebody opens the door, because you know how dogs are. They like to warn everyone when someone comes in. And my little honey baby just sits next to me and watches while I paint. Just press the tape down. Again, because I wet the canvas, the tape tends to lift up a little bit, so just be careful when you paint down. Again, if some tape does get underneath the tape, some paint gets underneath the tape, it's okay. You can always correct it later. When the paint dries, you can do a touch-up. Be very careful. Maybe I'll wet the brush just a little bit to spread the paint out a little more. We all know that fall is a lot of rain. I was born in the fall in October, so I enjoy the fall a lot. There's spring babies, summer babies. I'm a fall baby. Once in a while, I'll dip the brush in a little bit of water and so I can thin the paint out and keep spreading. I will try to answer any questions you guys have. But for now, I'm just painting the background white. I'm just pressing the tape down. Okay, so I loaded all the little rectangles with white paint. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of black on just the corner of the paintbrush, just a tiny bit, because the black goes a long way. See how little bit of black paint, just a tiny bit. And I'm going to be fluctuating the brush from flat to sideways, dabbing, just to make some shadow and effects in the background. Again, this is behind the window, so everything is not in detail, it's just a shadow effect. So what are we going to put? Are we going to put windows? Are we going to make trees? I think I'm going to do trees. Let's see. So let's just dab. Again, it's just shadows. And we're going to mix it in with the white paint. Only because it is fall, so we're going to do some gray shadow and effect. Make it look like a few trees in the back. Again, if your brush is dry, load it up a little bit with white paint. Just a little bit of white paint and dip the very tip or corner of black. Again, we're making shapes of trees in the back. And it's okay if you go over the tape, touching the other rectangle, because like again, it's one window, it's just split. For now, we're starting with gray, light gray. Try to blend it in with the white. Again, let's go to the lower window. It's a little bit closer, so it's a little darker. Try not to cover too much of all the white in the rectangle. Try to leave some spaces. Again, if you don't want gray, you can do whatever color you want. It could be green in colors. It could be spring or summer. But because it's fall, usually it's dark and it's raining. If you put too much dark in one area, you can always put a little bit of white and dab and break it up a little bit. It's no big deal. It's just paint. You can always paint over it. Blend it down. As you go lower, it lightens up. I do little crisscrosses. Blend it all in. Again, load up with white paint. Touch the little tip. And let's come on this side over here. Let's try to move this a little bit so you can see more. Start in the corner and work my way over. Now if it's too dark, pick up a little bit more white and go over it. Just correct it. Again, it is the background, so it doesn't have to be too detailed. It's just shapes, fuzzy shapes in the background. Load up on the white, mix it in. Just press this tape out a little bit. Tiny little dot of black. Crisscrosses. White paint, go over that. Just keep loading your paintbrush with white and dab a tiny bit of black on it and keep going. So on how you feel. Okay, I think that we need something on this side. Let's press this tape down a little bit. A little bit more white. Crisscross effect. Soften it up. Really don't want any hard lines. You want to soften it as much as possible. Okay, so far that's the background. Now we're going to start adding a little bit of color. Almost like a pastel. So we're going to load the brush up with white paint. Again, I didn't wash the paintbrush because there's barely any black paint on it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a tiny little dab of yellow on the corner of the paintbrush. And we're going to come in and dab a little bit of yellow here and there. To give some of the background images some highlights. And blend it in to the background. Tiny bit of yellow. Let's come over here. Random bushes in the back. There's yellow. I love the colors of falls, the yellow, reds, the orange, the browns, they all come in together. It's nature's own art canvas. Soften that up. Maybe a tiny bit up here, just a random color. Balance it out a little bit. See a little tiny bit more. Give it a little bit of balance. Now, let's see. I'll take a little bit of yellow. Let's load the brush up a little bit with white first. Just white. Take a tiny bit of yellow. And let's dip a tiny bit of red. Just a tiny bit of red with the yellow. And let's see what happens. Let's go and dab some of this red yellow in here. Let's press this tape down. Bring a little bit more of the red. And a little bit more yellow. It's a little too much red. This time I'm painting with the side of the brush and I'm making lines to kind of give it the leaves of the bushes. And flares it out a little more. Again, we're giving it layer effects. Tiny bit of the yellow and red. And let's do a little bit more red than yellow this time because we're coming closer to the window and we do want to see a little bit more red. Again, gentle dry strokes. Again, it's the background. It doesn't have to be specific. It's just a simulation of the shapes of the leaves or the bushes. And let's tap a little more paint on the corner of the brush. Now, if your brush is becoming a little too dry, try to load up a little bit more with white. And then work your way to a dab of red and keep going. And blend it in. Just soften it a little bit if it gets too sharp. Again, this is the background, so it has to be a little more of a fuzzy look. See how it's more like a pastel color? It's just a background scene. Now, I'm thinking that I'm going to rinse the brush off because I don't want it to dry out. I have a container with hot water, believe it or not. I think that the hot water, that's my personal preference. The hot water tends to release the paint a little better on my brushes. Wipe it on. And I'm going to use the small brush, soft bristle. I'm going to wet it, wipe it a little bit, and I think I'm going to go with, let's load it up with white. Again, we are working with to make it look pastel. Just white. And I'm going to take a little bit of black to make gray. Now, instead of working with it flat, I'm going to go longwise. And I'm going to try to simulate some of the branches that don't have... I'm going to work from the middle and then work my way down. It's just my preference. Now, if I think this brush is too thick, I might go with a pointier brush. Again, pull up. And if the brush is too dry, wet it a little bit with water to soften the paint up a little bit. Let's go over that again. There. I'm going to cut a little branch that connects to that same one there. Only because it's closer to the window, this branch is a little bit more visual than the background. It's okay if you pick up colors from the other bushes. They all have to blend in. It's okay. Not too worried about that too much. Pick up some more of the gray. And come over. There you go. Let's come over here, make another branch. Okay, so I think I'm going to try... Let's rinse this little brush out. I'm going to go with a thinner, pointier brush and work with that one. I mean, you use what you have. You make whatever you have work for you. Pointier brush. I loaded it up with the pink paint. I'm sorry, the gray paint. There you go. Your branches, and just fill in the branches a little more. And one over here. We tend to get sometimes some of the little hairs on the brush comes off. It's fine, just pick it out. Let's thin out the gray paint a little more. And let's come up here, make some squiggly lines, more branches. Connect it. It's on how you feel, how many branches you want to make, and it's on how you want your tree to be expressive. There you go. Maybe one is coming down at an angle. Let your branches flow however you want it to go. Maybe it's a few little branches back here in the bottom, in the background. Again, they don't all have to connect either. It's all in the background. Maybe some over here on this side, hiding in the back. It'll all fade away. I think we should add some green to the background. Maybe there's a few little pine trees in the back. So I'm going to load the tiny little brush with white paint. I'm going to dab the very tip of it in green. The very tip of it, a tiny little dip of green, and let's work with that. Let's see. Make tiny little lines. And mix it in there. Make tiny little fine lines in the background. A couple of pine trees in the back. Again, if you think depends on the air in your room. If the air is dry, your paint will dry fast. If it's not, then it'll last a little longer. Acrylic paint does tend to dry a little quicker. Just random little lines to simulate a pine tree. Again, I'll wet the tip of the brush, grab a little bit of green paint, and let's make a tiny little green spiky. Like a little miniature pine tree in the bottom. Almost like a dry brush effect. Keep wetting my brush. The paint will blend in. I'm going to rinse the brush off really good. And I think I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the red and the yellow. And I'm going to bring some red up to the top. I think that simulating a few leaves here and there. A little dark, but let's get some more white in this. Let's soften it up a little more. There you go. Again, it is a thin brush. I did load it with white and then I touched the red. And it's going to simulate some of the red fall leaves in the back. Remember the maple trees? Sometimes the leaves are huge. And they tend to go like 3 up to 5 strokes per leaf. Okay, give me a second. Okay, I'm back. Multitasking, sorry. I got dinner on my stove. For those of you that know me, you know I'm always cooking. I'm in the kitchen. So let's get these leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep wetting the brush. Some big fall leaves here. And as you wet your paintbrush and use the same paintbrush as wet, the paint will get lighter and lighter, which is what you want because it is the background. Make it random. Keep wetting the same brush, tiny bit of paint. Big random leaves. There's too much paint up here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this paint. Again, keep wetting the brush, grabbing a tiny bit of the red paint. Some leaves over here. Wetting the brush constantly, dipping in a tiny bit of red paint and going over. The more water you use on the brush, the lighter the color is going to be. Okay, I'm going to rinse the brush off and I'm going to pick up some yellow because I think that these trees is not sometimes just all red. And I'm going to mix some of that yellow with red and make some orange. Mix it in a little bit. Wet the brush. And I'm going to mix a little bit more yellow, red. Let's create some brown. Tiny bit of blue. So red, yellow, and blue. Mix it in. Get a brown color. It's kind of hard to see, I'm sorry. Mix it in. Let's make some soft brown leaves. Here and there. I'm gonna wet my brush so I can get lighter as I paint. It's a little dark, so I'm gonna wipe some of the paint, wet my brush, and pick up some of the paint again. Lighten it up a little bit. Let's put another leaf near it. Happy little accidents that happen. That's all right. Take some of the brown. More brown. Come over here. Wet the paintbrush. It's getting too dry. Some brown this way. I'm going to take the same brown, water it down a little bit on the paintbrush. Make sure it's nice and pointy. And go on this end, and I think I'm going to make some more of these little branches coming up. Leave little lines. Again, keep wetting your brush. Twirl it to a fine point and work your way from the bottom up. Adding different little brush strokes, little twigs and branches. Just to give it balance. Now this is where the fun begins. We have to start painting the water droplets on the canvas. And how we're going to do that is I'm going to stick with the same pointy brush. I kind of like the way it maneuvers well to make little shapes. And I'm going to load it with white paint. Really load it with a lot of white paint. And we're going to start by making circles. Knobs of circles. Like little teardrops. And then on that same teardrop, you're going to grab some black. It's almost like a gray effect. And we're going to go in that same little circle where it's white. We're going to go from the top to the middle, and we're going to fill that in. Try to move this closer so you can see what I'm doing. Right inside the center of the white circle, you're going to take some of the gray black and you're going to fill in. Let's try to move this a little closer so you can see. There you go. Try to fill in the little white circle with the gray black inside. Not all the way, just on the inside. Again, grab some more white paint. I'm going to be dabbing a whole bunch of little white circles. Making little teardrop shapes. Random circle sizes. It could be large ones, little tiny ones, huge. The teardrop ones, you can just give it a long tail and then do a nice little circle. Teardrop shape. Again, a long teardrop and then a circle. Little dots here and there. See how it's teardrops? You're going to take a little bit of the black paint on the tip and you're going to fill the inside of that teardrop. See how I'm filling it in? And fill it in. More from the top to the middle. Just make them random. Try not to fill the whole thing in. Tiny little fill in. Even the little tiny one, the little tiny dots, get a little tiny dot of black. This little detail is important so you can get the raindrop effect. See the layers? Even the tiny little small ones. And keep going. When you get to areas that are mainly white, you can go more into the gray tones. I mean, give it a tail, make the teardrop look like it's sliding down the window. Sorry about that. Sorry everyone, my camera's acting up. Trying to keep it still, sorry. After investing in a better camera, I am using my phone. Thank you for being patient with me. There you go. Wetting my brush a little bit, grabbing some of the white paint, and I'm mixing it with the black to get a gray. And we're going to come up here. Again, we're taking a long little tail, and then we're doing a circle to make that teardrop effect. Again, little circles. Teardrop effect. Little circles. Grab some black and fill in the teardrops. Since we are live, so guess what? You guys all saw the bloopers. My camera going sideways. It's all in fun. Sorry about that. It happens. Accidents happen. The more highlights you put on it, the more the raindrop will pop out. I need to load up on more white paint because I ran out. If you can, bloopers happen, I tell you. This is what happens when you pump paint for your canvas. You guys would have laughed if you would have seen what happened. My poor husband helped me pump paint, and the paint bottle decided to squirt him all over his clothes. You think this is bad? You should see his shirt. Okay. Now let's load up on the white paint again on the brush and make more water droplets. Everywhere you have a dot, you have to highlight. So we're going to put a dot. Of the black. Anybody experience that when you use a hand pump and you pump the paint and all of a sudden the paint squirts somewhere else? Yeah, that happens. My husband's laughing in the back because the poor thing. Bloopers. It happens to the best of us. Every little white dot gets a reflection. Now the center where we painted black, we're going to mix some black and white and get some gray tones. I'm going to load the brush up with some gray. And we're going to paint the center of the black. A little bit of gray. Here it is. It's the reflective light coming off of the black. Grab some more of that gray and fill the center of the black. So far you have 3 layers per dot of where the rain is. If you put too much gray, it's okay. You can add more white to it. It's okay. Now I'm going to make this gray a little bit darker. Mix it in a little bit with the white. Dab a little bit of water to thin it out a little. I can see my sister now laughing, Raquel. We would not stop laughing. Has any of that ever happened to anyone? where, say the toothpaste, you try to squeeze toothpaste on your toothbrush and what happens? Toothbrush squirts and it splatters everywhere. Yeah, that's pretty much the case. I'm going to do a thin little line with the gray. I darken the gray a little bit more. And it's going to be a trail line of where the droplets are, where they're coming from. So I'm going to start from the rim where the tape is. And I'm going to follow that thin little line all the way to that raindrop. Again, I'm going to make a thin little line and follow another raindrop. It's going to simulate that the raindrop is falling down from the window. Let's trace this one around the raindrop. Now we're going to grab some white and we're going to make some highlights on the big raindrops. Right in the center of the gray, on the top portion of the teardrop, we're going to put a tiny little white line, a white dot. Then right below where the black and the white meet, right in between, we're going to make a little curve, like a little horseshoe. See how it makes it pop? And if you want, you can make a third little dot, a tiny little one right in the center of the gray. That's more detail for the rain to pop. See how the rain is popping now? Again, let's do it on this one. A tiny little white dot on the top. A little white dot over the black on the bottom. And a tiny little white dot right in the center. See how the rain is popping out now? Again, let's get some white on the top. A tiny little white dot on the bottom. Not all of them have to have 3 dots. White dot on the top. White dot on the bottom. Tiny little dot in the center. White dot on the top. White dot on the bottom and one in the center. Top. Bottom. Tiny little dot. Tiny little dot on the top. Tiny little dot in the bottom. Every single little raindrop that you painted gets the highlights. It's very important that you get all of them because water reflects light. See how it's popping out now? If you want, you can even drag a little bit of the white up the teardrop. One on the top, one on the bottom, light on the top, light on the bottom. Just the tip of the brush with the white paint. Tip on the top, tiny dot on the bottom. Try to get all the droplets. All the droplets get a dot. Even the ones in the bottom, they get little tiny reflective lights. Just follow this little line because it is kind of dark, so we get a little reflective light on it and a little white dot. Yes, we can connect. Some of the droplets also connect with each other and turn into one big one. All right, let's make some water droplets over here. Long one. A bunch of little dots. A nice big raindrop right here. Another raindrop right in here. I have to remind myself to breathe. I don't know if that has ever happened to anyone where you want to hold your breath to make sure you stay very still to keep your balance. You have to remind yourself to breathe. See how the droplets are coming out on the window? Is popping out. That's what you want. My poor husband is getting ready to go to work. He puts a brand new shirt on and he says, I'll hold this while you pump. And as soon as I pump, the paint squirted all over his new shirt. And I didn't catch it on camera. That would have gotten 100,000 likes on that one. It was priceless. I wish you guys would have seen it. I think that this one needs a little more dark onto it. So let's see. I'm going to grab a little bit of the black paint and try to fill it in on the inside. There you go. You can always fix paint. Paint over it. Happy accidents happen all the time. You can always correct it. Okay, we did black. Now we need a little bit of gray. Then we need some white for the highlight. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that'll work. Retracing all the raindrops. See where they follow. Let's put a little bit of gray on this one. It's a little too black. There you go. A little gray on this one. And get some white highlights on all these little dots. There you go. I think that this raindrop needs to be highlighted a little more, so let's make it a bigger one. There you go. Let's get some gray. And some black on it. And get some more white on this. And there you go. These different variations of water droplets. Get some black in this one. And some gray. And rinse the brush off. Because it is a thin brush, it does tend to dry out quick. Let's do some gray in the center. Let's do some white highlights. Okay, I think that's enough raindrops. Now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make a thin line of shadow of gray along where I made the tape line so it can pop out. I'm going to take some black and I'm going to mix it with white, make some gray. And I'm going to carefully trace a little thin line around the tape. just the tiniest little thin line right on the rim of the tape, just to give it a little bit of shadow. I'm literally painting over the tape and just letting the edge of the brush touch the rim of the tape. I'm going to do that all the way across. Just let the rim of the brush touch the rim of the tape. Again. I'm going to add a little bit of water so the paint can flow a little easier. Again, I'm going to touch the majority of the paintbrush is touching the tape, and only the rim of the brush, it's following the rim of the tape, just to get the tiniest little line. Okay, so the shadow's going downward. And again, let's do it to this one here. Just follow it, all the tape line all the way across. Keep loading your brush with paint. Again, let's make some more gray paint. I'm going to add a tiny bit more white to it to lighten it up a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit of water so the paint can flow a little better. And this time we're going to go on the side. On the side of the tape line, we're going to go thin line straight to the side. Thin line. Thin line. Try to keep it as straight as possible. Again, it's just a shadow on the side of the window. If your paint is too thick, just add a little more water. Follow the rim of the tape. Let the tape guide you. Again, I added a little bit of white to lighten that gray up so it's not as dark as the bottom line. At this point, it's almost like a letter L. I am just following the tape line. That's all I'm doing. Now I'm going to add a little bit more white again to that gray and make it even lighter again. And I'm going to add a little bit of water. So it's almost like 3 different grays: medium, light, and lighter. And I'm going to go on this side. Go lighter. And try to keep a steady hand. But if not, it's okay. Just follow the tape. Follow the tape. Again, load up the brush. Follow the tape line. Follow the tape line all the way down. I have to look to make sure I'm getting that tape line. There you go. Follow it all the way down. What you're doing is creating a shadow effect. That's all. And follow the line. A thin line with the lightest gray on the top part of the square or the rectangle. It's almost transparent. You can still see through the back because it's watered down. Let's press that tape down. All you're doing is creating a shadow, that's all. With the lightest gray. Thin little line. That's all you're doing. Make sure your brush is loaded and then go straight across the tape line. Again, it's watered down, so you're going to see the background through that gray strip. All you're doing is creating a shadow on the window. This one's a little darker. Make sure I got all the way around. Okay, so now with the same light gray color, I'm going to make the little knob that opens the window. I'm going to make it right here. I'm going to do like a small little circle. Let's go a little darker with the gray. It's going to be a shape, like a rounded shape, or half a shape. And then it's going to have a smaller, rounder shape on the front end. Because it is an older window. I think I'm going to trace it out a little bit darker. Let's trace it out. There you go. Just a window knob. And let's make it a little bit bigger. Looks almost like a mouse, right? And just add a little bit of white for highlights. Make it almost like a silver, like a gray. Blend it in a little bit. See that? Let's add a little more white. Highlight a little bit more. Just to make it pop out a little more. There you go. Three-tone effect. And let's get a little bit of black and make a little bit of a darker undertone underneath where the knob is. Just for shadow. Okay. Now what we will do is paint the lower strip. Now once we're done painting, then we will take, let's lower it so you can see. Now we're working on this little piece of strip right here. This little piece of strip, you see it? It's about 3 fingers length. I'm going to take the 1-inch brush and wet it. And let's see what color. I think I'm going to make it brown, a dark brown. Let's take some white and some black, and not mix it thoroughly, just so there's like a marble effect. And let's go and see what happens. And go straight across like it's a piece of wood. Let's grab some of that brown. Bring it across. See how you get those streaks, different color streaks in there. Wood does that, if you notice. You don't want to blend it too much, but we do want contrast. See that effect we get? If you want to add a little bit of detail to the wood, let's put a little black dot there, almost like if the wood has like an eye in it. Just give it contrast and soften it up a little bit. Side of my brush, just gently wipe it across. And let's add a little bit more yellow tones into this, so it can reflect a little bit of outside. Tiny bit of red tones. Just a smidget of the colors. A little bit more white. Straight across. Now I'm going to mix and make some more brown. Red, some yellow, some blue. Some more black to darken it. Let's do some lines, see what happens. There you go. Mixing in the red, yellow, and blue again to make some brown. It looks almost like a milk chocolate right now. And let's make some lines. I kind of like the marble effect, so I'm going to add some black. And a little bit of white. Now because the paint is wet, it's kind of mixing in. So we have to be real gentle with the brush as we do this. You can keep doing it until you get the effect that you want on the wood. I'm going to keep adding color to it until I get the right markings that I'm happy with. You do it whichever way. You can leave it white, whatever color you want, you can do that. I'm just going to keep adding colors until I get the pattern that I'm happy with. The trick is to know when to quit. When to stop ahead of time. Okay, I think I'm okay with that. I'm going to get a little bit of black on the same brush, and I'm going to follow it on the rim. Just to get a shadow there. Okay, a little bit more black and get a shadow on the bottom portion of the tape line. Break these lines a little bit. Okay. So now let's start pulling the tape and see what it looks like so far. I'm trying to rinse this brush off first. Make sure all the paint is off of it. And move the phone back a little bit so you can see. And let's move this back a little bit. See what's going on. Okay. I'm going to start from the top and I'm going to start peeling. Just one so far. Two so far. Three. Four. Now I have no idea what just happened, but I'm gonna soft this, pull the tape, and it pulled some of the paint off. Oh, let's smooth that out again. Again, when you pull the tape, just be careful when you pull it, because certain vibrations on the tape tends to do something with the paint that's wet still. So just be careful when you pull the tape. Right, so the top is work our way down. So what happened was paint chips jumped from the tape onto the wet paint, and it got stuck. Again, that's what I have so far. And again, any little mistakes that you have, you can always correct. I'm wetting my brush. And I'm cleaning off the rim. Little accidents that happen, just wet. If the paint is still wet, you can correct little mistakes that occur. There you go. A little bit right here. Use a clean brush. Just wipe it. That's all you have to do. If it got under the tape, get a clean, wet brush, wet it, and go over it. And if it doesn't come out, it's okay. Just let it dry completely and you can just paint white paint over it again. Again, if anything went under the tape, just get a clean, wet brush. Follow the line and clean it. It's okay. Accidents happen. Just clean it out. Now, am I happy with this? What did I need to do? Let's see here. So what happened is I painted the light gray over the tape. Again, because the tape was painted with the canvas itself, it was hard to see that line. And what happened is I missed the lighter line here. So I will have to freehand and fill these lines in. So carefully, I'm going to trace this white line. All the way down. Make sure the paintbrush is wet. Again, let's follow this line. All the way down. There you go. And if you come too close, grab your clean wet brush and follow that line all the way down to clean it out. Trust me, mistakes will happen. Just keep calm and collected and fix it. That's all you have to do. Clean wet brush. Now what I think I want to do is I'm going to paint the window lines black. So let's get some black paint. And add a little bit of water so the paint can flow a little better. I'm going to use the 1-inch brush, but I'm going to be making the lines painted sideways. First, I'm going to trace the outer line. To make sure it's straight up and down. Then I'll worry about painting the inside. Again, you need a steady hand for this part. Unless you want to wait, put tape on the outer rims and then do it that way. I'm just going to, with a steady hand, do this. Try to do one even flow. Again, if your paint is too thick, add a little bit of water. To thin it out just a little bit. And continue. With the brush, re-dip it in the black paint, just so that the paint flows better on the brush, and then try to do it again. Try to stick to one straight flow with the brush. I mean, there's different ways of doing it. You can always retape everything and tape the opposite side. If you see that you went sideways a little bit, just try to correct it. Add in a little more at a time. Again, make sure your brush is loaded with paint. And go with light pressure as possible, because when you press onto that brush, it tends to go thicker as you're pressing, and it will distort your line. Wet your brush, reload on the paint. Again, start from the top and work your way down. Light pressure. If you tend to go sideways, it's okay. Just try to correct the line. Okay, load up in the paint again. Now, let's go from here and work our way down. Again, wet your brush. Get more paint. Make sure your brush is loaded with plenty of paint. If your paint's too thick, wet your brush with water, mix it in so that the paint can flow. It's easier when the paint flows. Top, go all the way down. Just take your time. Take your time all the way down. If you wonder who's snoring in the background, that's actually my dog. I have two dogs. One is a Morkie and one is a Pit Bull Terrier. So those are my kids right now. My other two kids are off in college. But my kids are here with me, my two dogs. Right, honey? She likes to watch as I paint. Right, Mama? Right here? Want to say hi to the camera? There they are. They like to sit with me as I paint. It relaxes them to hear me talking as I'm painting. Those are my two babies. You're like, who are you talking to, Mommy? I'm talking to YouTube family and friends. Okay. It's okay. Any sudden movements, they protect me to the end. It's okay. Again, put the brush on the rim and go straight across. Take your time so the line could be straight. It's okay. Now let's go on this side. Straight across. Let's try to connect this right here. Okay, so that's what I have so far. Now let's get to the top. Sorry, I need a coffee break. Let me take a sip of my coffee. Now we gotta paint the top. Wet my brush, load up with the black paint. Let's bring this up a little bit. Let's go from one rim and work my way straight across. Okay, okay. It's all right. It's okay. I know you don't like the beeping sounds. It's okay. It's okay. They're telling people to be quiet and not to disrupt my painting session. That's all it is. I know, my goodness. They're making too much noises. I know. It's okay. All right. It's okay. All right. So now we're filling in the lines all the way over. Now the window is starting to come alive. Wet my brush. Re-dip it in black paint. And get it to flow better. Paint all the way down. More black paint. Just trace this line. All right. That's what I have so far. It's fall window so far. Now I'm bringing in some shadow from the sides. I'm using the side of the brush, the black brush, and I'm just making a few little streaks on the wood to bring in some shadow. Now, What I'm going to do is think I'm going to paint something looking out the window. I'm just looking for ideas. I'm going to wet this big paintbrush, and I'm going to go with the smaller 1/4 of an inch brush, just so I have more control of what I'm painting. I'm going to grab this one here, and I'm going to load it with black paint and do a trace, an outline of what I want. Let me see. I think I had a piece of chalk around here. Yes, I do. When in doubt, do it with chalk, because chalk you can always wipe it around. So I think I want to do maybe something here. So let's do a circle. Maybe his little paw wants to play with the little teardrop that's moving on the window. And his little ears. Let's see. Let's take some of this chalk out. And all you need is a wet tissue. Wet tissue, you can wipe any chalk lines off. I got plenty of wet paper here. Let's take a little piece and wipe this off. There you go. Now let's see. Let me get some ideas here. I have my laptop next to me, and I want to see. Basic kitten shape that I can look at. And I want to do this to complete it. But I think that having a kitten on the window, that is so cute. Okay, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to get some black paint. Wish me luck on this one, guys. Okay, so kitten's little head. start with this. And I'm doing it in black only because he's in the shade, so you really can't tell. So I'm just gonna do the basic kitten shapes and then fill it in from there. Again, I'm taking some black. I'm adding a little bit of water to get the paint to flow. And let's see here. See, the kitten's body is smaller than its head. So let's make his head a little bit bigger. Let's do like a tear shape here, like if he's sitting down. Again, I am freehanding this. His little legs are curved right here. See his little ears. So work in progress. Draw a little bit on his shoulders. round off a little bit more his little head. I think I'm going to take the pointy brush and start flaring out a little bit more of the fur on the kitten. So let's do tiny little flare-ups on his ears. Tiny little flare-ups on the sides of his face. Make sure your brush is wet and that the paint is thin enough to do the little fur flare-ups, because otherwise it won't flow. I'm munching on green apples, by the way. Sorry about that. I wet my brush and I'm re-dipping it in the black paint. I think when you have an indoor cat, that's their dream. They stare out the window to see if they will ever be free to go out in the wild, catch little birds, or chase the squirrels. Again, it is a shadow. So we're doing little highlights on the tail. Should I do a paw print? A little paw on the window? Or should I just leave him staring? Definitely need a little tail on the side. Cute little paws on the side. It's tending, because the paint is still a little bit wet, it's picking up a little bit of the gray from below, and that's okay because that's more of a shadow effect, so it's okay to do that. And that's because I didn't wait until the paint was completely dry. And I kind of like that gray look, so I am going to try to see if I get a few little gray highlights in here on his little ears, top of his head, just as some light is flaring and shining on his little fur. But overall, I'm going to keep him dark because, again, he is just staring out the window. Just some light hitting his fur from the outside. Maybe he sees a robin or a little blue jay. No one knows. Pick up some black for his tail. And some gray. Just to give it a few highlights on his tail. Distinguish that he's sitting on the ledge. Maybe I'll give him a little bit of white on his paws. That'll give him a little bit of contrast. Teeny tiny bit of white on his ears. Maybe a few tiny little white hairs on top of his head. Just for a little bit of contrast. Fluffy, super fluffy little kitten. And let's put a little bit of white on the tip of his tail. Just a little bit. There you go. Alright, I think I'm going to add a little highlight on the hinge. Alright, I think I'm done with this. And we are going to sign it. I'm going to sign this and call it done. Make sure I have a thin enough paint. Okay. And today is the 11th. 11, 11, 18. All right, this one is done. All right, everyone, thank you for watching. This is the final outcome of the painting. Let's look at everything. There is a kitten with a little white furry tail. And that's what it looks like. And that's the final outcome of it. There you go. All right, so thank you for watching, and we are done with our live painting. God bless everyone, and have a good night.